I've been thinking a lot lately about a Shakespeare quote from his play As You Like It. It goes, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." This goes on to be a big speech about the different roles that a person plays as they grow and navigate their own life. But I like this quote because as a coach, I see this all the time. When I'm working with someone, they are the protagonist of their own story. I get to meet and work with all these different main characters who are going about in their own lives, shaping their own world. And my role in their life is to help them navigate their own arc, who they are, who they want to become, and where they want to go. I found this perspective to be very profound for everyday life. And that there's two reasons for that. One is that it gives us that feeling of sonder. It reminds us that every single person around us is living their own full, complex narrative where they are the main character. In their story, you might be a supporting character, or you might just be an extra passing through for a single scene or a brief reason. And the same goes for you too. People come in and out of your life with different capacities as you navigate the challenges and joys of life. It's this idea of the bird's eye view where this small thing plays a bigger part in the overarching whole. And it also gives us an expansive view on our own lives and makes us look at who we are. It forces us to ask, how much time do we waste obsessing over a scene that has already fulfilled its purpose? And what's the role I'm playing in my own story? Now, a few years ago, July 4th of July, I had just come back from a party and I found a lost dog with no owner in sight in my neighborhood. She had a collar on, but I could tell that she was clearly scared and unsure what to do. I felt fortunate because I had some training for this kind of situation when I used to volunteer at a shelter. I had seen this dog before and I knew that she was a sweetheart, so I felt comfortable trying to get her home safe. So I started getting my stuff from my car, and as I'm kind of trying to calm this dog down so I can see her tags and be able to call her owner, there's this guy with his kid that walks by. The poor dog moves over, kind of curious to this guy and this kid, and the kid jumps behind his dad, screaming out. The father is immediately incredibly defensive. He starts yelling at me, saying, "Hey, you got to control your dog. You need to get that thing away from my son right now." And I get flustered and I'm sitting there saying, like, oh, no, no, this isn't my dog. I'm trying to calm her down so I can call her owner. And he interrupts me saying, "This is your dog. Don't lie. You better control her right now." At the time, I remember just feeling really flustered and frustrated because the situation had become far more stressful and possibly dangerous than it had just a moment ago. And I remember getting really defensive and also really angry towards this dude. The situation had a happy end, at least. They went on their way. I was able to calm the dog, check her tags, and then call the owner. She went home safely. Everything was okay. But that experience left a sour taste in my mouth, despite me being able to set out what I wanted to do and take care of this dog. I focused on the guy instead, and I labeled the guy a jerk and just held on to a grudge long after the incident ended, claiming that it was just unreasonable. But if I look at this from the viewpoint of these interconnected stories playing out, I get to notice new things. I get to zoom out and see that in his story, that man wasn't a villain. He was a protective father stepping up to defend his scared son in an immediately stressful situation. From his perspective, a stranger holding a leash next to a loose dog that might be dangerous had to be the owner. He didn't know I was a volunteer. He didn't know the dog was scared. He didn't really care. He was simply playing the role of the defender in his own script, of being a father, based on his character traits. He wanted to be a supportive role for his son who had to have been genuinely terrified. And of course, that makes plenty of sense. I like to think about this story because the lesson that I think it gave me was very profound. But I didn't see it because I was so focused on this really negative interaction, or at least how I perceived. Which, of course, in of itself is a lesson, right? The fact that it took me a little bit to recognize this. But the lesson I could have taken away from that situation was that you could be doing a good thing or you could be having really good intentions, but someone may come along, see a quick snapshot of your work in progress without any context, and just assume the worst and label you as a villain. There might be obstacles as you try to do a good deed. It may not be easy. The reward is the act itself. I wonder how my life might have changed had I let that lesson be my takeaway, rather than the actual negative feeling I left with. This insight made me curious about how many other experiences and situations am I holding on to that ultimately just don't matter anymore and are simply a waste of energy. What are the things that I'm playing over and over in my mind, hoping to somehow change the outcome, when really the scene had finished already, and I need to be focused on what's being written now? The funny thing, too, is a couple years later, I run into this same guy again. He was completely friendly. He didn't recognize me at all. I had spent years holding onto a grudge over a scene he had completely forgotten. It was done and over for him, and here I was holding on to it, allowing it to be something much more great and much more important for myself that I needed to let it be. Now, the other reason I like this viewpoint of the world being a stage is because it puts us as the main character in our own story, our story. And in any great narrative, a character's true traits, their flaws as well as their strengths, are what drive the story forward. The flaws and strengths of other characters that come and go add to the story by virtue of the main character interacting with them. And with that in mind, we have to think about our own traits. How are we showing up in our own lives, in our own stories? Are we shying away from challenges and discomfort, or are we facing them head on? Are we being more reactive to life rather than proactive? Are we staying where we are now because we want to, or because we're scared to turn the page? There's always going to be a balance, of course. Not every story is told the same way, nor does every story hit the same beats or learn the same lessons. Value and self awareness play a big part in this. Because, as I'll say in every video, context is everything. But I wanted to shine a light on this, anyways. Because who we are will dictate what we do, and who we are isn't fixed. We can grow and develop new traits. Hell, what makes a character arc interesting is that the person changes. Who we really are affects what we do, and living truly to ourselves and focusing how we want to show up shapes our world. I have a friend of mine that I love to death. He is someone that will wake up at 3 a.m. to take you to or pick you up from the airport if you don't have a ride. He offers freely, and I know that being someone reliable and someone that is there for the people that he loves is deeply meaningful to him and something that he really embodies. He doesn't do it because he wants us to like him or because of anything external. He does it because that's who he is. That's what he wants to be able to say about himself when he looks himself in the mirror. He is someone that is there for his friends. The caveat being that he also knows that we're not going to be taking advantage of him, of course, nor that we will take him for granted. But it's because he's like this that he's so reliable and he embodies that reliability so strongly. It inspires me to do the same. It makes me want to look at myself in the mirror and say, how reliable am I when it comes to my friends? How do I show up in my own life? Is that something I want to embody? Is that something I want to be able to do for my own friends? I think we owe it to ourselves to embody who we want to be, to tell a story that is entirely our own. Hell, like how I just mentioned in that story, I think we owe it to others too. How we characters play off each other and inspire and challenge each other is part of the bigger picture. You never know just how being your true self might help someone else with their story or develop traits towards being the person you want. And the way it affects others can vary greatly, of course. It manifests in different ways. But just to clarify, this doesn't mean be a jerk or that you're somehow not responsible for your actions anymore because of the big picture or that you can't be held accountable. If you see a guy swerving out in and out of traffic thinking that he's special and the rules don't apply to him, he's not really being inspirational. He's just being an asshole. I just mean take a look at the character traits you want to embody. It could mean being more courageous. It could mean being more structured. It could mean being kinder. Hopefully, it's not being an asshole. There's plenty more I can talk about this. I've rewritten this script multiple times at this point. But I think I will end things here and leave that for a future video. What I hope you leave this video with is to ponder on seeing the bigger picture of your own story. I've left some questions in the description below for you. Of course, as always, take what is useful, discard what is not. Context is everything, and you know your own context best. Well, my friend, I hope you take care, and I hope your week goes well, and I'll see you again sometime in the future.